Every summer, millions of Americans head to a lake. They swim in calm blue water, barbecue on the shore, and watch their grandchildren splash in the shallows. These lakes look peaceful and completely ordinary. But beneath the surface of some of these lakes lie entire towns. Churches with their steeples still pointing upward through the murk. Schools where children once learned to read. Cemeteries where the dead were never moved. These are not legends. These are places you can visit today. The ruins are still visible and the descendants still mourn. The water still hides what was taken. Now, let us begin. Number 10. We start in Butte County, California at Lake Oroville. Before this reservoir existed, a gold rush boomtown called Bidwell's Bar stood in its place. It was founded by John Bidwell, who discovered gold near the Middle Fork of the Feather River on the 4th of July, 1848. In those early days, Bidwell bartered with local Native Americans, trading food for gold. Word spread fast. By 1853, the population had swelled to 2,000. The town became the county seat. California built its very first steel suspension bridge right there. But gold towns burn bright and burn fast. Within a year, the population dropped to 200. By 1882, only 30 people remained. Then in 1968, the state completed the Oroville Dam and flooded the entire valley. A Sonoma State University study found 250 prehistoric sites and 478 Gold Rush-era sites in the area. Many of those prehistoric sites belonged to the Conco-Maidu people, who had lived along the Feather River for thousands of years before European contact. Their fishing camps, grinding stones, and ceremonial grounds were all cataloged, studied, and then drowned without ceremony. The one thing they saved was the original 1855 suspension bridge, moved to higher ground in 1966. Today, you can walk across it and look down at the water, knowing the town it once served is sitting far below. Number 9. In the Texas Hill Country sits Lake Buchanan. When the Buchanan Dam was completed in 1937, it drowned a small agricultural community called Bluffton. Families were given little choice and modest compensation. Their farms, their homes, their main street, all disappeared under the rising reservoir. Bluffton refuses to stay hidden. When water levels drop during severe drought, the ruins crawl back out. Stone foundations emerge from cracked mud. Old roadbeds lead into the shallows and then stop. Vanishing Texas River Cruises takes visitors out on Lake Buchanan to see the ghost town when the water recedes far enough. In 2006 and again in 2011, droughts lowered the reservoir so dramatically that overlooked cemeteries were exposed. Headstones appeared in the dried lake bed, some still legible, bearing the names of people whose descendants had no idea their ancestors had never been moved. Every drought pulls back the curtain. Every rainstorm closes it again. Number 8. Lake Norman is the largest human-made lake in North Carolina. Completed in the 1960s, it spans 4 counties and stretches over 34 miles. Before it was a lake, that land was home to the Catawba tribe. Creating the lake meant moving cemeteries and flooding ground lived on for centuries. Duke Power Company, which built the dam to cool its nearby nuclear power station, promoted the project as an economic boon. Lakefront property values would soar. Tourism would follow, and it did. But that prosperity was built on top of someone else's history. Among the ruins is the Long Island Mill Village, built in the 1800s and owned by Superior Yarn Mills. The history goes deeper. The site of the Battle of Cowan's Ford, a 1781 engagement where Lord Cornwallis pursued Nathaniel Greene across the Catawba River, now sits under the waters. A battlefield from the Revolution, beneath pleasure boats and water skiers. Then there is the plane. A small plane sank in 1974 and was not discovered until 2013, when Charlotte Fire Department divers doing practice drills noticed it with sonar. In more recent years, a car was found submerged with human remains inside. It belonged to a woman missing for 15 years. And locals also speak of a creature they have nicknamed Normie, a lake monster in the tradition of Loch Ness. Sightings have never been confirmed, but they have never stopped either. Number 7. In the Sabine River Valley along the Texas-Louisiana border, a massive dam was built in the early 1960s. The result was the Toledo Bend Reservoir, the largest human-made lake by surface area in the American South. It stretches 65 miles long and roughly 3 miles from shore to shore. The Sabine River Authority used eminent domain to acquire the land. Families were offered $125 per acre. They took the money because they had no choice. One of the communities swallowed was Robinson Bend, a predominantly black settlement on the riverbank. Douglas Hamilton, who called it home until age 9, remembers the 30 or 40 families who lived there. They grew their own food, fished from the Sabine, and attended a one-room church where the preacher came every other Sunday. It was not a wealthy place by any measure, but it was theirs. In 2011, several hundred descendants gathered at Lakeview Recreation Area for a reunion. They stood beneath swaying pine trees and looked out over the water, knowing their childhood homes were somewhere under it. Hamilton described looking out and seeing where all of them were born and raised. Nothing but water. But they knew it was out there. Number 6. In southeast Nevada, inside what is now the Lake Mead National Recreation Area, there was once a pioneer settlement called St. Thomas. Established in 1865 by Mormon settlers, it served as a stopping point between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City. The town had a schoolhouse, farms, a church, general stores, and an ice cream parlor run by a man named Honig. Trouble started in 1870, when a survey revealed St. Thomas was actually in Nevada, not Utah. Nevada tried to collect taxes, including back payments. The Mormons refused and relocated. After 1880, farmers drifted back and the town regrew to around 500 people. For decades, it was a quiet, sun-baked farming community in the Moapa Valley, surrounded by desert and sustained by the muddy waters of the Virgin River. Then, in 1928, President Calvin Coolidge signed the bill authorizing the Hoover Dam. After the dam opened in 1936, the waters began rising. The last resident, Hugh Lord, rode away from his house on the 11th of June, 1938. He reportedly set fire to his home before leaving, preferring to watch it burn rather than let the water take it whole. But St. Thomas has resurfaced 3 times, in 1945, 1963, and 2012. During the most recent drought, Hanig's ice cream parlor was the first building to emerge. The drought also revealed something far more disturbing. At least 5 sets of human remains were found during the extreme low water levels. Number 5. In western North Carolina, Fontana Dam stands on the Little Tennessee River. Completed in 1945, it was the largest dam in the Tennessee Valley Authority system. It rises 480 feet high, built to generate hydroelectric power for aluminum production and munitions during the Second World War. The electricity also helped power the top-secret weapons labs at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Construction required relocating over 1,300 people and flooding several towns including Fontana, Bushnell, Forney, and Judson. Judson alone had around 600 inhabitants, with a sawmill, post office, and shops. Many of the families in these valleys had lived on the same land for 5 or 6 generations, going back to the earliest European settlers in Appalachia. They were given weeks to gather what they could carry and leave behind everything else. But it is Proctor that carries the deepest wound. 1,200 families were forced to move. The government promised a road back to 26 cemeteries holding over 1,000 graves. The road was started. 7 miles were carved into the mountains. Then it stopped. It ends at a tunnel that leads to nothing. Locals call it the road to nowhere. Some cemeteries remain inaccessible to the very people whose ancestors are buried there. Twice a year, the National Park Service arranges boat shuttles so that descendants can cross the lake to visit the graves. Some of those who make the trip are now in their 80s and 90s, and they say they can still picture the houses that once stood between the trees. Number 4. In northwest Arkansas, 5 miles southeast of Rogers, there was once a place called Monte. Founded in 1900 by William Hope Harvey, a lawyer whose 1894 pamphlet Coins Financial School sold over 1 million copies. Harvey bought 320 acres, renamed the area Monte, combining the Spanish and Native American words for mountain and water, and built a grand resort. 3 hotels, a bank, a golf course, the first enclosed swimming pool in Arkansas, its own railway line, and an Italian gondola to ferry guests. Harvey ran for president in 1932. He founded the Liberty Party and held their convention at the Monte Amphitheater. It was the only presidential convention ever held in Arkansas. He expected 10,000 delegates, but 786 turned up. Harvey was convinced civilization was dying. He spent his later years trying to raise money for a 130-foot-tall pyramid to preserve human knowledge. He envisioned filling the pyramid with books, documents, artifacts, and sealed time capsules that some future civilization would one day unearth and use to rebuild. He believed he was saving the world. The world did not agree. Nobody funded it. Harvey died in 1936. Then in 1960, the Army Corps of Engineers dammed the White River. By 1964, Beaver Lake had swallowed Monte entirely. During severe droughts, the ruins rise again. The amphitheater emerges. Hotel basements become visible. In 2023, the Corps began removing remaining sections of the Oklahoma Row Hotel due to safety concerns. Number 3. In western Massachusetts, 4 towns once stood in the Swift River Valley: Dana, Enfield, Greenwich, and Prescott. Together they contain 6 churches, 13 schools, and 60 summer camps. 14 mills manufactured textiles, hats, and wood products. These were not frontier settlements clinging to survival. They were established New England towns with libraries, town halls, and centuries of recorded history. Then Boston ran out of water. By 1927, the state passed the Swift River Act, granting authority to take land in the valley. 2,500 residents were ordered to leave. Landowners were offered $108 per acre. Not a negotiation, a notification. Residents were given until the 27th of April, 1938. That night, a farewell ball was held in Enfield. Residents who could not get tickets danced on the lawn outside. When the clock struck midnight, the 4 towns were legally dissolved. They ceased to exist not just physically, but on paper. Most structures were burned to the ground. The valley was on fire for months. 7,500 bodies were exhumed and reinterred elsewhere. The water rose. The Quabbin Reservoir was born. Today, it supplies drinking water to more than 2 million people in Boston. In years of drought, people can look down and see old street grids on the bottom. Roads that once connected neighbors now connect nothing. The Friends of Quabbin organization maintains a visitor center where photographs of the 4 towns are displayed alongside personal letters, deeds, and artifacts donated by former residents and their families. Some visitors arrive not out of curiosity, but out of grief, standing at the water's edge looking for a town they were born in that no longer exists on any map. Number 2. In central North Dakota, the Missouri River was dammed in 1953 to create Lake Sacagawea. Before the water rose, this land was the Fort Berthold Reservation, homeland of the 3 affiliated tribes: the Mandan, the Hidatsa, the Arikara. The headquarters was in Elbow Woods, where residents operated gas stations, stores, the post office, the school, and the hospital. The Garrison Dam destroyed it all. The reservoir flooded 156,000 acres of the reservation's most fertile bottomlands, nearly a quarter of their remaining land. The lake wiped out 80% of the road system, 90% of its commercial timber, all educational and medical facilities. More than 325 families were forcibly relocated. There is a photograph from the signing of the taking agreement that tells you everything you need to know. George Gillette, the tribal chairman, is standing at the table with his hand over his face, weeping, while a government official beside him smiles for the camera. That image has become one of the most widely reproduced photographs in the history of federal Indian policy. The last class to graduate from Elbow Woods High School was the class of 1953. By 1954, the school was under 50 feet of water. What followed was devastating. More dependence on welfare, alcoholism, family deterioration. Landowners were told the lake would irrigate more than 1 million acres of cropland. Irrigation canals were built, never used. Not a single acre has ever been irrigated with water from Lake Sakakawea. One name proposed for the replacement town was Vanish, a combination of Van Hook and Sanish, a haunting word nobody chose on purpose that described exactly what had happened. Number 1. In northern Georgia, roughly 50 miles northeast of Atlanta, sits Lake Lanier. More than 10 million people visit each year. The reservoir boasts 692 miles of shoreline and borders 5 counties. Created by Buford Dam on the Chattahoochee River in 1956, its construction destroyed over 50,000 acres, displaced more than 250 families, and required relocating 20 cemeteries. But the true story begins decades before the dam. The land beneath Lake Lanier was once home to Oscarville in Forsyth County. Roughly 1,100 black residents lived there, descendants of men and women freed after the Civil War. They had built churches, schools, and small businesses. It was a self-sustaining community along the Chattahoochee. In 1912, everything was taken. The entire black population of Forsyth County was driven out through racial terror. Lynchings, night riders, property deeds found their way into the hands of white neighbors with no bill of sale. Oscarville became a ghost town long before the water arrived. For more than 40 years, the land sat empty, or was farmed by those who had taken it. The black families who had been driven out never returned. Most never could. Then, in the 1950s, the Army Corps built the dam. The remnants of that destroyed black community were submerged. What began as social erasure was completed by physical erasure underwater. The Corps relocated approximately 20 cemeteries. More than 700 graves were exhumed. But record-keeping in the rural South was inconsistent. Many unmarked burials are thought to remain beneath the water. Since 1956, an estimated 700 people have died at Lake Lanier. More than 200 of those deaths occurred since 1994 alone. Drownings, boating accidents, freak electrocutions from faulty dock wiring. The lake claims lives with a regularity that defies explanation. Investigators and journalists have tried for decades to determine whether the death toll is statistically abnormal compared to lakes of similar size and traffic. The answer depends on who you ask. The Army Corps maintains the numbers are consistent with any major recreational reservoir. Locals are not so sure. Fishermen have snagged their lines on tangled remnants of old structures far below. Divers speak of roads that lead to nowhere. House foundations remain intact. Crypts sit in darkness at the bottom. Legend has it the ghost of a woman in a blue dress roams the lake at night. Angry spirits call people to submerge graves that were never properly moved. The lake was named after Sidney Lanier, a poet who fought as a Confederate soldier. Some believe the name itself carries a curse, honoring a man who fought to preserve slavery on land stolen from black families through organized terror. Visitors still come. They swim over streets where families once lived. They boat over graves that were never moved. And every year, more names are added to the list of the dead. Some say it is the currents. Some say it is the submerged debris. And some say it is the lake itself, pulling people down to join the ones who were never supposed to be forgotten, but were.